start the recording. Give me a moment. Trevor, you okay there?
Yep, ready to go.
Yeah, give me 1 sec. Start recording. We are live.
Okay, good morning everybody and welcome to this first fully hybrid meeting of Cabinet. Welcome members both in the new chamber room and also online. I'll take apologies for absence first, please.
Thank you, Leader. I have apologies from Councillor David Hopkins and Alison Pugh.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other apologies to give today? If not, we'll move on then to disclosures of personal or prejudicial interest. Are there any to declare for today's items? Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, I am personal and prejudicial interest in item 7, the school governor appointments. I know one of the applicants and my school is named, so.
Okay, thank you. Any other declarations? If not, thank you.
Sorry,
Councillor Gibbons.
yeah, I'm named as one on the school governor's appointment, so personal and prejudicial, and I'll leave the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Leader?
Councillor Child here. Item 11, prejudicial as on the board of, personal as on the board of Wales National Pool, and item 19, personal and prejudicial as is in my ward, and I'm part of the initiative to get the use of land.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I will leave the chamber for that.
Similar Leader, member of the board, Wales National Pool, on item 7, local authority governor appointments. I've got dispensation to speak but not vote.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Francis Davis.
Likewise, the Wales National Pool and the National Waterfront Museum.
Okay, thank you all very much. If you could complete the necessary forms, thank you. We'll move then to item 3, which is the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 1 to 8. I've not been notified of any changes to the minutes, but happy to take any amendments today. Are there any? If not, I'm happy to move them as a true record. Could I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second.
Thank you very much. Can I ask everybody if they're in favour? Thank you very much. Can I ask members who are in the chamber, if they're logged in on their devices, just to raise their virtual hands when they do that, please, if that's okay. Thank you. We'll go on then to announcements of Leader of the Council. I do have a couple of announcements today. Firstly, to recognise the contribution made over a number of years now by members of this cabinet. Specifically, I wanted to reference 2 cabinet members who I know will not be standing at the forthcoming election. And of course, this is likely to be our last full cabinet meeting prior to the election. So I wanted to just thank Councillor Mark Thomas for his work over many years as cabinet member for environment. I know that portfolio is hugely busy. It deals with most of our front-facing technical services, and I know that Councillor Thomas has been absolutely committed to that role and does respond very, very quickly to everything that's raised with him. And I just want to place on record our thanks and my thanks to Councillor Thomas for all his work, both as a local member, as a member of council, and especially as a cabinet member. And Mark, you will be hugely missed from this authority when you stand down. Likewise, Councillor Mark Childs. Mark has been in a number of cabinet roles and has distinguished himself in every one of them. Obviously spent time as cabinet member for social services, and we know Mark's commitment to health and social services. Mark obviously took a break from cabinet to become Lord Mayor of Swansea, and Mark again discharged those duties in very difficult circumstances during the pandemic, where unfortunately wasn't able to play the full role of the Lord Mayor in the way that you would like to have done, I know. But Mark, again, thank you for everything you've done for the residents of Swansea and in the various roles of cabinet, and of course what you've done for your community of West Cross. So can I thank you both very much. I'm no doubt we'll say more at council because there are obviously other members retiring. And can I also thank all of my other cabinet colleagues for all of your work over the last few years in delivering for the people of Swansea. So thank you very much. So those are my announcements today. We'll now move to public question time.
Thank you, Leader. No questions have been submitted.
Okay, thank you. We'll move then to councillor question time. Are there any councillors present today who are not members of the cabinet who would like to ask questions?
The gallery is indicating there are no questions from the councillors.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move to item 7 then, which is our local authority governor appointments. So I'll wait for the members who've declared an interest who may need to leave for that item. If there isn't a prejudicial interest, that's fine. Okay, and I'll turn then to Councillor Smith.
Thank you,
If you
Leader.
could just give us one moment, sorry.
Okay,
That's fine, Leader, thanks.
thank you, Leader. I formally move the report, Leader.
Great, thank you very much, Councillor Smith. I'm happy to second. Could I ask all those in favour then to raise their virtual hands, if you can, please?
I've got an electronic vote, if that's easier, Leader.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Evans.
That's just been launched. Okay, have you all had an opportunity to vote? Anybody unable to vote? No, I shall close the poll then. And that is unanimous for, Leader.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll wait a second while members rejoin us. And let me know when all the members are back into the room.
Yeah, that's fine, Leader. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We've next got item 8, the Hub in Schools Infrastructure Programme, and I'll hand over to Councillor Smith, I think, to introduce.
Yeah, I'll introduce it. This is a very welcome investment in our school infrastructure. We know the role that technology is playing and has played for many, many years, but I think this is going to be enhancing what our schools are able to achieve and is going to be a much valued investment that enables them to respond both to the new curriculum and to the changing circumstances that we've all seen with COVID and with other situations that could arise. So I'm very happy to endorse this report, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I'm very happy to formally second. Does any other member wish to comment, or do they have any questions for Councillor Smith? If not, then Mr. Evans, if we could launch the vote.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. Right, has anybody not had the opportunity to vote? Not coming up? It's okay. Shall I take any verbal votes? How do you... Right, that was Councillor Robert Francis Davis voted for there. Anybody else unable to vote? No. Okay, I shall close the poll. And again, that is unanimous for, Leader.
Thank you very much, colleagues. We'll move then to item 9, which is Q3 Performance Monitoring Report. And I'll go to Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Leader. This report presents the performance results for the third quarter of the year, and as you will see mentioned throughout, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic continued to bring huge challenges to the council, our services and our workforce. And it's in this context that the report should be considered. This has been an unprecedented time, and the council's response to the pandemic has been extraordinary. You will see from paragraph 2 that the effect the pandemic had on performance and how the council transformed itself to manage that impact. despite this, almost half our performance indicators showed improvement or stayed the same with the previous year. And the story of the effects from the pandemic and how the council is responding continues in paragraph 4, which also provides an overview of performance. There are some very positive areas in the appendix, and I'll leave colleagues come in on the respective portfolios if they want to. But there are also several new indicators that have no data to compare to these, but will also ensure that the baselines are recorded and we can keep track of that performance throughout the year and have a comparison for the next report. I just want to put on record my thanks to all our officers and all the workforce right across the authority. Their continued efforts they put in day to day in what's been an unprecedented time has been outstanding. I'm happy to move the recommendations laid out in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Fully concur with what you've said there. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you to Councillor Stevens. I just wanted to place on record my thanks. As Councillor Stevens has said, our departments, services, our frontline officers and workforce have performed outstandingly through what has been probably the most difficult periods this council has ever faced. And we're still constructing modern, high energy efficient homes for the benefit of our tenants through very, very difficult times, still carrying out essential repairs and maintenance for our council tenants, and also tackling homelessness and making sure that nobody should go without a bed or a roof over their head during this very difficult period. So I wanted to pay tribute to all the services that are within my portfolio as well as across the council. But I think it needs to be said, it's been a very, very difficult time and they are still performing and performing outstandingly, I have to say. So my thanks to them.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Again, absolutely agree with that. Fantastic effort. Councillor Gibbard.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to draw attention to section 4.4 of the report, really on tackling poverty, and the very worrying statistics there from the Bevan Foundation highlighting how nearly 4 in 10 Welsh households are struggling to make ends meet already, and considering the rising fuel costs and how benefits and wages are failing to keep pace with inflation, it is quite concerning, quite frightening for many of our families. But that being said, obviously I want to pay tribute to our council teams who are working incredibly hard to alleviate these problems, particularly our employability staff, welfare rights, lifelong learning, community cohesion, community safety teams, and obviously also the partnership working that goes on across Swansea with our third sector colleagues as well to try and do our bit for making life better for Swansea citizens. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gibbard. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it's each and every one of us as cabinet members will have examples where within their portfolio and their areas of responsibility, the efforts that our staff have continued to put in. It's not, people talk about the pandemic being over. Our services are still not back to pre-pandemic levels. We are still being stretched and strained in many of the fields that we cover. But nevertheless, we've often said about the heroic efforts put in by our staff, and I just wanted to draw particular attention on the appendix there, and just for members of the public, really, because you can look at these charts, and so there's one there which is under Nature and Biodiversity, page 19 to 22, section 19 to 22, which indicates that there's a decline in the waste collection service. And it is, effectively from what it was, there is a decline. But to put things, you have to contextualize that within the pandemic. I mean, during 2 years of the pandemic, we still reached the government target of 64%. It's a slight decline on what we were able to reach in 2020 before the pandemic hit. The fact that we still met that statutory target is beggars belief, to be honest, because my fear was that in waste collection services that we were going to have a real problem area and we were going to struggle to get anywhere near that target. And to be truthful, had we only reached 60%, we would have been forgiven by that, not just by ourselves, but by the public and I'm sure by Welsh Government. But to achieve that really does show that you know, we've been able to achieve those dizzy heights despite the pandemic. And again, so if you just take things out of context and look at some red lines on a chart, it said effectively it is an accurate recording of. But then to put that into context and relate it to what we've been through for the 2 years, and that's just one small example. That each and every one of us here today as cabinet members can give those sort of examples. But it was just for the public listening in and watching. You have to look deeper than what these charts sometimes portray, you know. And it's no reflection on the charts; the facts are there. But I think you keep reminding ourselves that that's what we achieved over this worst ever period that the country has ever experienced. So in that context, it is miraculous, you know, and I just wanted to make that point. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Again, fully agree with your comments and those of Councillor Gibbons. I mean, I'll come back to my main comments, but it is, you know, we have to remember that for many councils, they discontinued parts of their refuse collection during the pandemic. We did not do that. Our teams continue to deliver every day, and it's a fantastic achievement, as you say, to still be very close to the levels that we previously achieved. Okay, I'll go to Councillor Child next.
Thank you very much, Leader. I'd just like to reiterate now that the praise for our workforce really that have taken place through quarter three and through the whole year, to be quite honest, for the whole pandemic. In quarter three, we were preparing backup plans to get ready for Omicron and the start of Omicron. It was, but we managed to come through it remarkably with safeguarding at the absolute top of our agenda for all our citizens, and I'm very proud that not only social services staff, but staff across the council bore this in mind all the time. And I won't be able to say it at quarter four's figures, but the storm that followed Omicron, the storms that flooded and blocked roads with trees and whatever, we still met all the social services calls that were scheduled for that weekend and those days, which is a real praise to the staff involved there. And one last thing, I just thank you, Leader, for those kind words at the beginning of the meeting.
Not at all, Councillor Child, well deserved. And again, quite right to recognise the efforts of our social services team. It's been a monumental effort to try and plan for the service delivery when we are facing new variants of COVID with different impacts and different risks to our vulnerable residents. So yeah, again, an exceptional effort. Councillor Smith.
Yes, I just want to echo the thanks that have been made in the meeting and refer to the school staff and indeed our own officers who provide essential services supporting those schools. It's been an unprecedented period for our schools, as has been already mentioned, in terms of attendance, in terms of the challenges that our schools have faced. And I think the way they have risen to that challenge and have found ways to resolve situations is a tribute to them, and it's something that I would like to record, Leader.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Smith. And it's not just, of course, the delivery of our educational services to support children in learning, but of course the educational teams, as we've seen, I was there with you this week, have continued to deliver the excellent and brand new facilities that we've been able to provide and deliver throughout the pandemic. And children returning to schools over the last few months will now be in lovely buildings, 21st century buildings with the best facilities that we can possibly provide. So again, it's not just the delivery of the educational services, but also the facilities. And again, fantastic delivery by our staff in the education department. I just wanted to say generally, over and above what everybody said, I think the other thing that we should recognise with this report is that we measure in these reports things that often that we are told to measure by governments and other bodies. But of course, when you get into a pandemic situation, there are other measures that are important, and of course they won't be in this report. But as many of you mentioned, our services had to step up what they normally do and to do things that are required during the pandemic over and above, which are not written down on pieces of paper here, but have kept people safe, have kept people supported during the pandemic, and have made sure that people get through this terrible pandemic. So, there's a lot of other delivery which isn't referenced in this report, which we should all quite rightly refer to. And I'm very proud of the efforts that everybody has made to make sure that we stay ahead and keep people safe during the pandemic. So thank you for that. So the report has been moved and seconded. So we'll go now to Mr. Evans for the vote, please.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. Okay, is anybody unable to vote electronically? No, everyone's good. I shall close the poll. And that is unanimous for, Leader.
Thank you, colleagues. We'll go next to the item 10, which is Disabled Facilities and Improvements Grant Programme for 22-23. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader. First of all, I just want to say thank you to this administration and to Council for its continued investment in disabled facility grants. Again, we agreed in the last budget to invest £5.2 million. In addition to that, the HRA will also be adding £2,750,000, which is just short of £8 million worth of investment in helping people to stay safe, live independently in their own homes, which is absolutely what we've always aspired to do. So we've got around £4.3 million to help people with their adaptations, but an important change this next financial year that people having small to medium disabled facility grant applications will not be means tested and will not be asked to contribute financially towards these works. So a major change for us as a local authority, but Welsh Government's review identified that this was a big barrier to people applying for disabled facility grants, and that barrier, I'm pleased to say, has been removed. In addition to that, we've got as I say, £2,750,000 for council tenants adaptations, and importantly, £370,000 plus an additional £30,000 for care and repair. Care and repair, many people may not know, was established by Swansea over 20 years ago, and as an officer I was pleased to see the implementation and the introduction of care and repair, and I think that's something that Swansea should be proud of. Again, it's to do with handyman schemes, helping people who are elderly and disabled with small works, light bulb changes, security measures in their homes. All of these things together help contribute to helping people to live independently and, more importantly, safely. In addition to that, we've got the home fix loans, which help people to repair their properties, and those are repayable, and then they go back into the fund, which is replenished to help further people to renew their homes. So I'm really pleased to move the report today. It's a critically important, and we've certainly seen throughout the pandemic the pressures on the NHS, and this investment certainly helps ease those pressures and helps people to, rather than to go into residential services or care services, to stay in their homes for longer. So very pleased to move the report, Leader, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis, and yeah, absolutely right. I mean, it's big prevention investment here, and it does help take, as you say, pressure off our health colleagues at a time when they're under extreme pressure, as are our services. So yes, very worthwhile. Happy to formally second the report. Are there any comments or questions for Councillor Lewis? If not, if I can ask Mr. Evans then to launch the vote, please.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. Okay, anybody unable to vote electronically? No? Okay, I shall look to close the poll. And that is unanimous for, Leader.
Thank you, colleagues. On to item 11 then, which is the Leisure Partnerships Annual Report for the coming year. Councillor Francis Davis.
Thank you, Leader. The report details some of the key partnership arrangements in providing leisure and cultural services for the benefit of the residents and visitors to Swansea during 2020-21. The partnership arrangements include the Wales National Pool Swansea, Freedom Leisure, that's all leisure centres, Parkwood Leisure, Plantasia, the National Waterfront Museum, Swansea Tennis Centre and Swansea Bowl Stadium. The report includes information on key income drivers, overall expenditure, net cost and profit, and resultant associated costs to the council, and details of support received in terms of government and or other grants in relation to COVID-19 pandemic. Now, during 2021, the COVID-19 pandemic caused huge disruption to our partners and operations and performance, and following forced closures by the UK and Welsh Government and the phased or amended reopening periods that followed. All partners performed well in the circumstances, managing costs and ensuring staff and customers' safety was a priority. Government guidance was followed throughout. All the partners took advantage of the job retention scheme, with a high percentage of staff furloughed during the forced closures. Visitor numbers for all facilities saw a huge drop in comparison to the previous year, which is understandable. Income streams for all partners were severely impacted, however, with tightly managed expenditure. Most partners ended the year in a break-even position. In line with the contractual terms, management fees were paid to the Wales National Pool, Swansea, Freedom Leisure, Parkwood Leisure and the Waterfront Museum. Due to the pandemic, additional underwriting support was given to the Wales National Pool, Swansea, Freedom Leisure and Parkwood Leisure. The council was able to reclaim these monies through the Welsh Government hardship scheme, as the requirement was primarily due to lost revenue. We thank Welsh Government for that understanding. The highlights, I suppose, the Wales National Pool Swansea, the Swansea-based sports park, was launched and is now the overarching brand for the Wales National Pool and its neighbouring facilities. The leisure management system was upgraded and implemented, and an online booking system introduced. A number of works to improve energy efficiency were also carried out. At Freedom Leisure, Visit Wales recorded the LC as the third most visited paid attraction in Wales in 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, and with top two being primarily outdoor attractions. So well done from Freedom Leisure there. The planned improvements and capital works continued. Freedom Leisure offered a COVID guarantee in 2021, which committed to gym memberships and all other users that they would not lose out financially during the lockdowns. During closures, virtual fitness classes were delivered free of charge to all in a bid to help keep Swansea active. At Plantasia, both during lockdowns and to maintain audience engagement and enthusiasm for visiting again, new live and recorded virtual experiences were developed along with animal adoption packs. And at the Waterfront Museum, during lockdown and due to reduced opening hours, a wide range of activities and learning sessions were provided online and exhibitions extended in December 2021. So I suppose inclusion, due to long periods of no trading, partners' expectations were achieved in 2021, were not achieved, sorry. The aim of the next 12 to 24 months will be to return to pre-COVID-19 trading positions, particularly the rebuilding of membership levels for both the Wales National Pool Swansea and Freedom Leisure. I'd like to move the report, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Francis Davis. Again, a huge amount done, as you quite rightly said, during a very, very difficult period. I'm happy to obviously formally second that report, but it is just for an information report for today. So there will be no vote, obviously, on that item. But thank you, Councillor Francis Davis. Are there any, before we move on, are there any comments or questions for Councillor Francis Davis on the report? If not, then we'll move on to item 12. So this is the Building Capital Maintenance Report for 2022-23. As members will know, we recently agreed in the budget, again, a significant capital maintenance spend for the forthcoming year, some £413 million and again, one of the biggest capital programmes in Wales. This item deals with a small part of our capital programme, but an important part, and sees investment in our schools and other infrastructure, again, to help with the upgrade of existing facilities, and it's a really important allocation in terms of improving facilities for our children and obviously for other parts of the estate. So the details are contained there in Appendix A and Appendix C. I won't go through them individually, but they again represent important and priority items for us to deal with in this year's coming maintenance, which totals around £4 million. So with that, I'm happy to move the report formally, and I'd look to colleagues to second.
Thank you,
Councillor
Leader.
Lewis.
Very happy to second this report. As you've highlighted, this is about the maintenance and repairs across the whole council estate, but I'm really happy to note that the majority of the investment stated here will be in our schools, and so I'm very happy to formally second, Leader.
Many thanks. Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, I'll ask Mr. Evans to launch the vote, please.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. Okay. Anybody been unable to vote electronically? No, everyone looks good. I shall close the poll. And that is unanimous for, Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Thank you, colleagues. We'll move on then to item 13, which is FPR7 Capital Allocation Highways Infrastructure Report for 22-23. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and happy again to bring the report to Cabinet, looking for colleagues' support. This is about our allocation of the funding available for our highway infrastructure. Total expenditure this year we're investing in our highway infrastructure is £6.452 million, and that is, another record of our investment in our highway infrastructure. I wanted to draw particular attention to Section 4, where it talks about we continue to have a rolling 5-year programme. It's a strategy we have as a council adopted for many, many years. We are currently in our 2020-2025 programme, and halfway through that, effectively, or almost halfway through it. There are links there that members of the public, councillors can access in Section 4, which if anybody wants to go and see where their road or what road they travel on is in the scheme, if it's planned to be done. Obviously that did take some alteration during the pandemic, because we had to shift our priority basis on the type of roads that we were able to tend to, due to accessibility issues and things like that. So we tended to avoid built-up areas and try to do areas that were less trafficked, and we could have access to them I'm talking about particularly the early part of 2020, when we were in the midst of a very severe lockdown. But we've made huge progress despite the lockdown, and that programme is well underway and on target to be completed. 4.12 then goes on to show how the council allocation to this budget of 3.468 million is to be spent and where is to be spent. That is, the usual sort of areas where we would look to spend this money. And then Section 5 goes on to show where the Welsh Government part of this 2.984 million spend is going to go. And I want to draw particular attention to the fact that we are using that money to focus on our green investment as well. Large parts of that fund from Welsh Government are going to be used for the LED upgrades on our lights, and that's part of our green policies that we've committed to, as well as, again, nearly £500,000 going into our green fleet. And that is going to grow, and there are further investment plans into that green fleet, and I know Councillor Lewis obviously is very much part of her portfolio as well, that element of that. So it's just a continued growth in that area. The report also highlights the challenges that we have, Chair, within highways. And a lot of people, I think, believe that the highways is just the roads. I wish that was the case and many times, but we have bridges, we have subways, we have things like the Tower barrage to maintain. There's a lot of infrastructure that has, huge maintenance costs associated with it as well. So when we talk about our highways, we, under the Highway Infrastructure Management Plan is all of those assets, culverts, which are very prominent at the moment because of flooding issues and concerns, etc. So it's a big programme of work, and we are endeavouring to do what we can with the monies. And again, we are grateful for Welsh Government for their contribution towards that. So I've got nothing further to add to the report, Chair, and I'm happy to move the report. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Lewis.
Yes, thank you, Leader, and thank you to Councillor Thomas. Really pleasing to see this investment in greening services, greening our lighting columns, and particularly welcoming the investment in greening our corporate fleet. And we will no doubt make strides. It's come to a recent policy development committee about looking at our grey fleet as well, which is perhaps more difficult, but certainly not insurmountable. And so very much welcome this investment in this report and the investment from Welsh Government. And my thanks to Councillor Thomas, given that this will be our last Cabinet meeting, that we've worked very closely, particularly on the electric vehicle infrastructure and the greening of our vehicles over many years. And so I just wanted to pay my thanks to him. I'm very happy to second the report.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Again, agree with everything that's been said. I think another series of not just significant investments, but investments in really important climate-related opportunities there. So thank you both very much for that. Are there any other comments on the report? If not, it's been forwarded. So it's been moved and seconded. So I'll go to Mr. Evans for the vote.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. Anybody unable to vote electronically? That's okay. Everyone seems okay. I shall close the poll. And that is unanimous for, Leader.
Thank you very much, colleagues. We'll move then to item 14, which is the Child and Family Services in-house residential capital investment. Councillor King.
Thank you, Leader. In bringing this report this morning, it's seeking approval to invest and expand our in-house residential services for children and young people. We currently have one in-house service, which is a small placement that can be used for short-term and emergency accommodation. There are significant challenges within the market at the moment that are coming from many different areas, and it's increasingly difficult to find appropriate placements, and particularly where we try to meet the aim of keeping our young people as close to the area as possible. So this report outlines an approach to try and address that situation. Paragraph 3 outlines the proposed works to be added to the capital programme in terms of the purchasing and adaptations to 2 properties that will increase the availability of placements that we can use within the Swansea area. So I'm very pleased to be able to move this report this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor King. Very, very happy to second this report. Again, another important capital investment, and as you say, will make a significant difference to the provision for children's services. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader. I'll be brief, but I just wanted to support Councillor King bringing this report here today, and anything that building services can do to help with the construction and the adaptation of the existing properties, I'm sure we'll be happy to do so. But excellent report. I'm very happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Child.
Yeah, delighted to support this. Sorry, delighted to. Am I doing this right?
Yeah, it's your link is on your laptop.
Oh, oh.
Right, just try that now.
Apologies, everyone. Maybe I'll get the hang of this before I finish. Who knows? No, I'm delighted to support what Councillor King has brought forward here. It will be a significant change to the way the start of a significant change to the way we're looking after children that need to be in a residential position. I mean, obviously, ideally, we try and get as many children into sort of a family home type setup as possible, but there will be children in this group. I think that the word that people that don't normally look at this area would be surprised to hear that the Councillor King said was the market for these placements. It's good that we're able to provide a council provision for these children. It's not all the children that we have in residential, and maybe ourselves or with partners we'll increase the provision internally in the future as well, but this is a very welcome step.
Absolutely agree, Councillor Child. Okay, thank you, colleagues. So we'll go now to the vote. Mr. Evans.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. I'll just give you all a moment or two. Anybody unable to vote electronically? Okay, I'll take a name vote from Councillor Robert Francis Davis.
Paul.
Thank you. Anybody else? No, I shall close the vote then. And that is unanimous 4.
Thank you, colleagues. Okay, we'll go to item 15, which is the National Collaborative Arrangements for Wales and the National Adoption Service for Wales and Foster Wales, enhancing governance, leadership and enabling. And again, Councillor King, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader, for that. Yeah, again, this is asking Cabinet to agree that Council signs the joint committee arrangements for the National Adoption Service, also to include Foster Wales. And this brings together a mechanism whereby the 22 local authorities will have an opportunity to have oversight all of the National Adoption Service and Foster Wales as part of a board, and we'll have representation on that board as noted in the report. The full agreement is in Appendix C of the report. I'm happy to remove the report, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King. I'm very happy to formally second that. Colleagues, is there anybody wishes to comment or questions for Councillor King? If not, if I could ask Mr. Evans to launch the vote, please.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. Right, anybody been unable to vote electronically? No, that looks good for everybody. I shall close that poll. The poll is closed and that's unanimous 4, Leader.
Thank you very much. Okay, colleagues, we'll now go to item 16, which is exclusion of the public. You have the legal officer's advice out there. So if I could ask you to show whether you agree, raise your hands. Thank you very much. That's unanimous.